This is Border Battle with King and CJ. With King.
You want to go get a hot dog at halftime? Well, guess what? You can also take the under in the second half of 25. You know what I mean?
And CJ.
You can win Super Bowls right now with me and Grandpa Brady over here. Let's do it that way.
Presented by the fine students and faculty of the Oklahoma State University School of Media and Strategic Communications in beautiful Paul Miller Building. Broadcast live on KXZY OSU Student Radio. And now, live from Studio 318, it's Border Battle with Jordan the Great King and CJ the Viking Notch.
Welcome back into Studio 318 here in Paul Miller Journalism Building. You're listening to the Border Battle with King and CJ. I'm King, I'm from Wisconsin, he's CJ from Minnesota. That's how we form the Border Battle. Got a special guest for you this morning. If you followed us on Twitter, Border Battle OSU on Twitter, by the way, you saw Coach Mike Boynton joining us this morning. So we're going to be taking a break right at the top of the show here to get him in here, and we'll pleased that he's taken out a couple minutes to join us today. Chris, again, what is the website and the tab to hit if they're wondering about the March Madness bracket pool? Just real quick.
Yeah, if anyone's wondering, they can go to borderbattle.kxzy.wixsite.com/borderbattle. Click on the March Madness tab. Scroll down. You can it'll have the list of your name alphabetical, or you can click on what's your score. There's an arrow above that. Click that twice. It'll then go top to bottom. It'll give you the ranks and all that.
Yeah. So, again, we got a couple different scenarios. I think we got a Villanova winner. We have someone who was on Duke. I believe Logan was on Duke, and there's obviously out, but he's winning right now. So, Villanova, Loyola, Chicago, a couple different opportunities there. All right, I think we're ready. We're going to take a quick break, couple minutes, come back, and we will have head coach from the Oklahoma State Cowboys, Mike Boynton, joining us on the program. You're listening to the Border Battle with King and CJ on OSU Student Radio KXZY. Welcome back into Studio 318 here in the Paul Miller Journalism Building at Oklahoma State University. You're listening to the Border Battle with King and CJ. I'm King, he's CJ. Between us, we have Oklahoma State University head coach Mike Boynton. Coach, thanks so much for taking out a couple minutes and joining us today.
Well, thanks you guys for having me. With names like King and CJ, it sounds like something that's really made for TV, which is why we're here. But I need another cool nickname, so I'll work on that for the next time I come on the show.
All right, sounds good to us. So starting it off, just season's wrapping up here. You've had a week or so to kind of chew on it or think about it a little bit more, what is your first reaction, just based on your first year? I know you sent out the tweet, just based on your first year as the head man in Stillwater.
Wow, it was a heck of a year. Just a little over 365 days ago, about a week now since marked a year of me being named the head coach, and it was extremely fun. It was a lot of great moments. There were some stressful times as well, but all in all, I thought it was a tremendous year for our program. We sit back a year ago, and a week ago from now. And there was some wonder how stable this program was and where the program was going under my leadership and whether I could handle the responsibilities of this great program. And, a year later, I think there's a sense of optimism and some pride and passion that's been restored in Gallagher, and certainly hope to continue to build that with our team as we move forward.
Now, the normal OSU kind of words are loyal and true, but you mentioned a couple things, passion, things like that. When we're talking about, coaches always talk about building a culture, and you have the hashtag Let's Work. That's kind of been your motto from the start. How do you have a lot of these coaches, whether it be high school, grade school, stuff like that have these catchphrases. How hard is it, and how do you take it from a hashtag, from a words on chalkboard before a game, to actually having players that will carry it out and building it into something that's actually visible on the court or visible in practice or in film room? How hard is that, and how do you do it?
It's interesting you say that. Let's Work really just is a way to phrase the way I approach things. And the work is a part of it, and it's something that I take a lot of pride in, and working really hard at everything I do, putting a lot of effort into it. But the let's part is the part that kind of gets lost. Let us work is really what it's about, because it's about a lot of people, and it starts with having the right people in place. You can put a phrase together to mean anything or to get people excited, but unless you have the right people doing the things that you want to do to have success, or that you believe are going to give us a chance to have success, it won't happen. And we were very fortunate as a staff, and me as a first-year head coach, that I had really high-character kids on our team and in our locker room every day. Then I had really great people on our staff that were able to take a mentality and a phrase and put it into work to get a group of kids to buy into working hard for each other and not being focused on whatever individual goals that they may be told are really important. So it was really gratifying to see that kind of come together, and it culminated in, even though we didn't necessarily reach our goal of making a tournament, and our ultimate goal is to be playing this coming weekend in the Final Four and compete for a national championship, for us to get to the NIT and have those 3 home games and see, even on spring break, how people responded to what this program and these kids did, shows that there's a culture here already. We didn't have to establish a culture. We just had to re-identify ourselves with our culture. And our culture here has always been one that has a lot of pride in our basketball program. Some of people's greatest memories of this university is spending time in Gallagher Arena. And our hope is that the future will continue to feel the same way.
So as you said, being a first-year head coach and, and getting players to play as a team, not as individuals, how much of a challenge was that for you as a coach to help them or to keep them from blocking out that outside noise that started, throughout the year in the beginning, and then, when the tournament was starting to come around and, not good enough? How challenging was that for you to kind of keep your players in check?
It's probably the biggest challenge that we have as coaches now. There's so much access to noise, and I call it noise because it's not really information. So many people, speak through computers or phones or whatever, and sometimes they're not real people. We're starting to find out that these aren't even real people. But even when they are, some of it is just with not a whole lot of knowledge. So we got to try to sift through all the false information that's being spewed out there and make sure our guys are able to focus on the things that are genuine, the things that are real, and the things that will help them individually have success. The most important thing that really happened in my life was I was able to be a part of a team for a long time, and I became very aware of what it meant to be a teammate. And that means you sacrifice your individual pride sometimes, maybe your individual goals and aspirations for the betterment of the overall group, And we had a group of guys who were able to do that, but it's a daily message because their devices tell them differently. Their friends at home tell them differently, that it's about them scoring 20 points or getting more minutes or shots. When really we just talk about playing really hard for the guy next to you, being willing to take a charge or dive on a loose ball because it means enough to do that for our team to have a chance to win. And, it takes a daily effort to make sure that those messages are the ones that they take, because we can't control what they hear. But that those are the messages that they take to heart and try to act out in their daily lives.
So then how much did that help having, Solomon, Carroll, Shine, and Smith, help embody that, help kind of, watching them embody it? Also, Solomon's always been a, grind out. He's going to do the little things, the dirty work. Does that kind of help with those four guys, especially jumping on board and helping lead the way as well?
There's no question. You always have to start with your veteran leadership. And I say veteran because it's not always seniors. Sometimes it's a sophomore who's just been through it a lot as a freshman and now has a little bit more experience than some of the freshmen coming in. But for us to have a guy like Mitchell Solomon who, there's no one who it meant more to put that jersey on every day than it did for him. His parents both went to school here. He's got siblings who go to school here. And so he's got a great amount of pride in representing this program and this university. And to see him do it with all-out effort every single day is something that was hard to question. And so when he was able to go out and say, there's a guy getting out of line, I'm going to help make sure he knows that he's not doing the right thing, you couldn't get much pushback on Mitchell because they know it was coming from the right place. And he was going to be doing that himself. So you needed to start with those guys believing that that's important, then doing it, and then making sure that other guys do it as well.
So, we talk about some of the off the court stuff, but on the court, I mean, before this year, I think 19-57 over the past several years against top 25 AP top 25 teams. Your team this year goes 6-5 against such teams. We'll get into maybe a little bit the away games and some of those games. But what was it about this team that made them a winning team against these better teams when it's been such a struggle against the top teams in the conference, the Kansases and the Texas Techs this year, when they struggle against those teams, and this team didn't, played well against Texas A&M in a loss and beat Florida State on a neutral court. What was the difference with this team?
I think it was just resiliency. Long before we ever played a game, we had to deal with some adversity. First, they were told that their head coach had no business coaching them and didn't deserve the opportunity to have the job. And then we get into the season, and the expectations were that they weren't going to be any good at all. And before that, they had worked pretty hard from between June, July, August, September, before the polls started to come out. But it's been an awesome experience watching those guys just really focus on each other. And so that success on the court wasn't something that just happened. The day we took the court in Lawrence, it was something that they believed that they had earned because of the work that they put in from the time they came together in June all through the summer. And even as distractions happened and we didn't have Jeff to start the season, and the investigation came, and that put a little bit of a cloud over the start of our season, these kids just kept focusing on, how do we continue to believe in each other? How do we continue to fight for Oklahoma State basketball and what this program represents? And I commend all those kids for doing it and coming out and having the success that they did. Now,
with the Big 12, preseason poll has you last, I'm sure it put a chip on the shoulder of all the players. Does it put a chip on your shoulder as a coach, or is that something you just say, you recognize it, but is that something that's just the kids put on their shoulders?
Yeah, I think I have a chip on my shoulder every day. I grew up and wasn't expected to have much success in the sports realm, but was able to just work hard and overcome all those obstacles. And whether people believed in me or not, I say it this way: I want to have success because I'm a competitor. I don't need somebody to tell me that I can't do something for me to work hard and try to do it. I like winning because I hate losing. And so I don't need someone to tell me that we can't win for me to be motivated to try to go out and do it.
Awesome. Well, we'll take a quick break. We're going to be right back with Coach Boynton. He's going to stick around and join us for another segment. Talk a little bit more about the season, this past season, and look forward to the future with Coach Boynton. You're listening to The Border Battle with King and CJ on OSU Student Radio KXCY.
Stillwater, Oklahoma is anything but still. We are a vibrant community, and we are conveniently located near Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and Wichita, Kansas. We're the home of the Oklahoma State Cowboys, and we serve as the cultural, economic, and athletic hub for North Central Oklahoma. In fact, several Quality of Life magazines have recognized Stillwater as one of the nation's 100 top places to live and one of the best places to golf. Established in the land run in 1889, Stillwater is a safe, vibrant community. It boasts a great educational system from K through 12, all the way up to our world-class university, Oklahoma State University. We have an exceptional downtown with a strong entrepreneurial spirit, numerous city parks and trails, and our medical resources are second to none. Stillwater is a wonderful place to begin your career, to start a business, to raise a family, or to retire. We invite you to visit Stillwater because we are anything but still.
Think you're not involved in your community? Think again. Spending your money with local businesses is more than an economic choice. It's a way you can have a say in the look and feel of your hometown. This spring, I invite you to shop in downtown Stillwater. Downtown Stillwater is home to locally owned shops, boutiques, eateries, and dependable professionals that you can trust. Find the perfect gift for your graduate, have a delicious meal with mom, or just stop in to enjoy great spring savings. By creating a demand for local goods and services, you can ensure a place for the local businesses that help give our community character and keep it unique. On behalf of downtown Stillwater, thank you for shopping local.
Welcome back into Studio 318 here in the Paul Miller Journalism Building at Oklahoma State University. You're listening to the Border Battle with King and CJ. He's CJ, I'm King. Thank you so much for joining us. You're watching Suddenlink Channel 112, YouTube Live, Border Battle On Demand, Facebook.com/Border Battle Show, or OSU Student Radio, KXZY. Again, still joined by OSU head coach Mike Boynton. Thanks for sticking around for the second segment with us. We appreciate that. So we saw the highlights there, those watching on TV, saw the highlights of the win at Kansas. You know, there were some inconsistencies during that stretch. You had Kansas and Baylor and West Virginia, Texas Tech, and Kansas State, I believe, was the 5-game stretch. Is there something you take away from that heading into year 2 where, you know, if you string a couple wins together, the RPI looks a little bit better for the committee or whatever that is. But is there some lessons you take forward as a coach from that span of games? Yeah,
there's always lessons to learn. The RPI is kind of a flawed metric in and of itself because it takes things that are already built in and then extracts them and measures them on their own again. Like the non-conference RPI portion, your strength of schedule is already milked into the process of coming up with your RPI. Well, then they extract your non-conference strength of schedule and makes it an additional component. But they don't do it for your conference schedule. So it's kind of flawed in that way, and I think they're going away from that. So I don't think about it in regards to the RPI. I know that our league will be really good every year, so I'm going to have 18 games on my schedule that'll be as difficult as anybody will have. The non-conference, we'll continue to try to challenge ourselves and bring a marquee team into Gallagher every year. We're playing an exempt event that gives us multiple games against pretty good competition. And then we'll also try to play another really good team on the road and try to have home and homes against 2 teams, and that way we got our schedule balanced from year to year. But learning the lessons through this league was a great challenge. This league had 4 teams in the Elite 8, 4 teams in the Sweet 16 and 3 in the Elite 8, and those are the teams that we got to try to compete against every year. So first of all, you do that in recruiting. It's a great lesson, and you want to have enough athleticism, talent, and depth to be able to get through the rigors of a Big 12 schedule. The other thing is you got to be adaptable. The one thing you learn through that stretch of games is a lot of teams in our conference play very differing styles. So we played, for instance, against, I think it was Baylor, and they played zone for 38 minutes on a Wednesday, and then on Saturday we went to West Virginia, and they pressed us for 38 minutes. And so you got to try to win both games. You got to try to win them in different ways, and you have to be adaptable in both your personnel and your scheme.
Real quick, I want to ask you, something Bob Huggins has never done. Eddie Sutton never did it. Some of these great coaches that have coached in the Big 12 never beaten Kansas twice. Was there anything Bill Self said to you after that second game, or anyone, shot you a message and said, what an incredible thing that is? Obviously, the first time it's ever been done when he's been at Kansas.
Nothing specific. Coaches are always respectful of each other. The coaches in our conference all are really high character people, and we've all shared some of the struggles, similar struggles as we've got to this point in our careers. But I think they all understand how difficult the next guy's job is because they understand how hard theirs is. And so there's an appreciation when you do have success that's kind of unprecedented, that there's just a respect level accomplished there. So I think the coaches in our league certainly respect what our staff did and what our kids did, and know that we're going to be a tough out for years to come. And as we continue to recruit good athletes that'll work hard and want to be a big part of this program, we'll continue to have some of those successes.
So then, talking about a little bit of recruiting and depth, and is it kind of a fair point then to make like your front court's maybe the most concerned with, having Sema, Gasson, and kind of McGriff as your your front court mates, so to speak? Is it almost fair to say that front court's kind of the biggest concern in a sense of for recruiting wise or for depth, to make sure that you have guys that can back up at those positions?
Yeah, as a coach, and certainly as a head coach now, I have a hard time making one thing more important than another. Every position in our program is really vital. The most important thing that'll happen between now and next season is the guys that are returning, that they improve. The time between now and, let's say, September, those summer months we get, those are critical moments for where this program is going to be able to go. Certainly, we want to continue to recruit high-level guys, and certainly there's a lot of high-level recruits that we're on. But those guys will still have a learning curve when they get here. And as they come along, you need them to be aided by guys who already know your system, already understand what the expectation is as far as the way we work, the way we maybe approach shoot-arounds or scouting reports and things like that. So, yeah, it's very important that we address all of our personnel issues, but the most important thing is player development over the summer.
So then could you say, too, it's kind of a nice thing to have the table set with such a core group as being juniors, like you said, the upper class. Does that help then, like you said, to help them improve and stuff, knowing that, they're only going to be juniors, you have them 2 more years, hopefully, as well?
Yeah, I mean, you think about guys like 2 guys in particular, Cam McGriff and Lundy Waters, both started a lot of games this year. And they both played a lot as freshmen. So their leadership with the young guys we bring in, or even if they're transfers with guys who don't know our system, will be critical to how those guys are acclimated into how they can have success within our program next year. But at the same time, there's other guys who maybe even if they didn't play as much over here the last 2 years, they'll have opportunities now because we did lose 2 guys who started in the backcourt. A guy in Shine who played a lot, even though he didn't start all the time, was a very key part of our program. So there's a lot of opportunity available for whoever is going to be on the roster next year to be able to step up to the forefront and be a leader.
Overall, since you've become a head coach, there's kind of maybe a sort of a divide in college basketball for graduate transfers. You coming in, how important are grad transfers for a new coach when you don't have necessarily the high school recruits in the building yet, or not with enough experience to contribute? Because obviously Kendall Smith came in this year and was, to a certain extent, a godsend for the team, stepping in at point guard and playing, pretty well throughout the Big 12 season.
Yeah, no, it's huge. That graduate transfer market is one that we do a lot of research and digging on, because it's not just getting a talented player. It's getting a guy who can fit into what you're trying to build, and a guy who doesn't just have the mindset that this is an opportunity for me to play at Kansas and then that means I can have chances to get drafted, but want to come here and take a program who was picked 10th, put them in position to finish 6th in this league and be close as we were to getting an NCAA tournament. Kendall Smith certainly was a big part of that. And he had some struggles this year, but certainly was a big piece of some of the big wins we had. had big shots against Iowa State and Kansas that will always be remembered, and certainly against OU to send the game in overtime that people will always remember for a long time, even though he was only here for one season. So those guys have a great opportunity to make an impact, although a short one, and help us build ourselves into a national championship contender.
So to get a little bit away from basketball, being from Brooklyn, New York, what's it kind of been like to transition to, kind of Stillwater out in the middle of nowhere? Obviously the traffic isn't the same. What's that transition been like?
Well, the fortunate part is I didn't come here from Brooklyn. That would have been pretty extreme. I was in Nacogdoches, Texas, which neither one of you guys probably have ever heard of. That's where Stephen F. Austin is before I came here. And it's quite a bit smaller than Stillwater. So this is kind of a step up for my family and I. But my biggest transition was leaving Brooklyn and going to Columbia, South Carolina when I went to college. And so that was kind of a shell shock. You go outside at 6 and you're used to people being out and about and no one's around. So just culturally you adapt. But I've really enjoyed the smaller town feel now. Got young kids. I've got a wife. I don't really hang out as much. And so it was a great opportunity for us to just be settled and be able to be a little bit more at peace with things.
Real quick, I want to leave the folks off with, I dug this one back up. I read it in February 13th. It's from Bill Haston, TulsaWorld.com. He talked about a couple recruiting trips he went on after the big win at Kansas and the big win in Morgantown against West Virginia, where you were either flying out to Virginia, I believe it was, or coming back to the BOK to watch a couple local teams there. What was that like? I mean, why do that? Why put yourself in that stressful situation?
Well, it's not stressful. It's part of the job. It's something that's very necessary. I can't be a good coach if we don't have really talented players, and certainly know that no matter how hard I work, it's always about the kids. So it was important for us to get in front of those kids and their families, particularly after being able to put our program in a place where they were exposed to some high-level success.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
We know
Oklahoma State basketball is in a good situation for the foreseeable future. Thanks for joining us again. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the MLB and what went on in L.A. We'll get to that next. You're listening to The Border Battle with King and CJ on OSU Student Radio KXCY.
What is arts and
Thanks,
science?
We aren't all about the arts.
We like to think of ourselves as explorers.
From exploring the human mind
to discerning the building blocks of the universe.
We don't just read books.
We don't just sit in the classroom.
And we don't just solve problems.
We seek to give everyone a voice.
In a variety of approaches.
We tackle the big issues.
By understanding complex social structures.
And even understand the small ones.
We take passions to new heights.
But stay grounded.
We tell stories.
Of the past. Of the present.
And work to predict the future.
We like to think with a little preparation. Some dirt under the fingernails.
And some self-analysis.
You can do anything.
With nearly 100 degree plans to choose from.
Where will your arts and science degree take you?
Connect, achieve, succeed.
To our neighbors and friends, we come to you today to let you know what's on our hearts. Because you're the reason what we do is so much more meaningful than a job. The reason we believe in the power of investing in tomorrow and the power of community. So this is simply thank you. As we step boldly into a time of growth and change, consider this our promise that every investment in our hospital is an investment in our communities.
This spring, I invite you to shop in downtown Stillwater. Downtown Stillwater is home to locally owned shops, boutiques, eateries, and dependable professionals that you can trust. Find the perfect gift for your graduate, have a delicious meal with mom, or just stop in to enjoy great spring savings. By creating a demand for local goods and services, you can ensure a place for the local businesses that help give our community character and keep it unique. On behalf of Downtown Stillwater, thank you for shopping local.
Welcome back into Studio 318. What a mess that is. Smell you later, Dodgers, say the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Holy man, a sewage leak ended up calling that one. I believe they ended up calling it. LA Dodgers and LA Angels, that's still spring ball, no worries. You're listening to The Border Battle with King and CJ. I'm King, he's CJ. Thanks again to Coach Boynton. We appreciate him taking out some time of his busy schedule. obviously always on the recruiting trail, always looking forward to how he can make himself and his team better. I think Oklahoma State got a good one here as far as the men's basketball coach. So thanks again to him. You're listening on OSU Student Radio, KXCY, Suddenlink Channel 112, YouTube Live, Border Battle on Demand, Facebook.com/Border Battle Show. Thank you so much for listening to us. We're going to talk some MLB, Major League Baseball. First pitch is tomorrow. Houston Astros begin their defense of the World Series crown. Chris, who is your favorite? No, don't think about it. Who is your favorite off the top of your head to win the World Series?
I got to go Astros again. Their core group is still intact. You can make the case for the Yankees because of the upgrades they've made with their power bats. But, not even thinking like you said, Astros. Maybe it helped that you were just talking about it a little bit. But on the first team, I was like, it's the Astros.
Yeah, I think I would probably go Astros off the top of my head. I don't really look at any team from the NL as like getting so much better that it really makes that big of a difference. I think when you talk about Altuve and you talk about their outfielder Marwin Gonzalez,
Springer.
I mean, they go 4 or 5 deep with guys that can change a ball game, not just be a good team or a solid team. They can change ball games. And I think when you're talking about teams that are potentially going to win a World Series, you got to have potential playmakers or multiple playmakers on the same team. They do. They have a good pitching staff that has largely remained intact. So, and then Ken Giles, he obviously pitched bad in the postseason last year. If he can get rid of some of those woes, they could do even better in the postseason, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, and I think a kind of cool matchup, right? And maybe, obviously if you're fans of other teams, you won't feel this way, but even for an AL championship game, I think a Yankees-Astros in 7 could be like one of the most phenomenal. It could be the biggest hype of the whole, path to the World Series, depending on who would make it from the NL. Like you said, even if the Dodgers, I don't know if the Dodgers, are able to come out again like they did last year. I don't know. Like you said, there's a team that matches up well against the Astros. I think if you are going to match up, you have to be like the Yankees. You have to have the power. You have to be able to hit. You have to strike some fear. But I think that'd be
disagree with you there.
Really?
I disagree with you. In the postseason, if you get some hot pitchers going, I don't care how good your hitting is, you're going to have a chance to win every time you step on the field. And the Cubs, to their credit, Yu Darvish, Lester, Quintana, Hendricks, and then Chatwood, that's our starting 5. You only need 3 or 4 of those in the postseason. And if you're going to tell me I'm taking the best 3, who's pitching the best out of Lester, Darvish, Quintana, and Hendricks, I'm feeling pretty darn good about my starting rotation throughout the playoffs. And then you talk about some of their better arms in the bullpen, Carl Edwards Jr., Pedro Strop. They could potentially. I think they got to be the favorites to win the NL, regardless of if the Dodgers were the team that got there last year. And I know the Nationals with Scherzer and Harper and the other starting pitcher that is now escaping my mind. You got all those guys. I understand that, but you look at the Chicago Cubs. Schwarber got it together at the end of last year. Ian Happ is a year older, a little more experience. Obviously, Jason Hayward's a little bit of a liability out in right field. But you got Addison Russell, Javier Baez, Ben Zobrist still coming off the bench, Rizzo, Bryant, that whole entire starting lineup, kind of like we mentioned with the Astros to a lesser extent, these guys can all make plays. They don't have guys that can change games necessarily like the Astros do, but I think Chris Bryant can change a game. Rizzo can change a game, and Schwarber can change a game. Even with as bad as he was last year, he made some big plays at the plate offensively for the Chicago Cubs last year.
Then I think it goes to show, in a sense, how much individual play really matters. Like you said, in the postseason, like you said, as long as you can get your top 3 pitching, even your hitting, if you can get the heart, even the bottom of the order of your lineup going, it doesn't matter. You can get 3 or 4 guys clicking at the same time. Like you said, then you get in these vaunted lineups that how do you get around them? If you're 7, 8, 9 guys, obviously in the American League, not in the Nationals, because potentially your pitcher, I guess. I don't want to take them out of it, but if you have your 7, 8, 9 are hitting phenomenal, I mean that puts pressure all around because usually they're they're not your best hitters, so to speak. They're not the ones that are going to always scare you. Some lineups are 1 through 9. They're good no matter what. There's not a lot of weakness, but yeah, it would be interesting to see where those teams go.
So give me a sleeper in the AL. I guess I'll let you use the Minnesota Twins if you want to, because I think they could potentially be classified as a sleeper team.
I think so. We'll go with the Twins. A lot of it, though, depends on Sano, how he comes back, if he's healthy, and obviously the whole allegation, all that drama that's now going through that organization. But, I think so. They've got a little better pitching staff. They made some improvements. Am I, even being from Minnesota, am I that confident? I don't know. I really don't. They're the top. I think maybe the Angels, depending on what. I forget what the guy that just
Mike
came
Trout?
over. No,
Shohei Ohtani.
I know he's
the
a
Angels
rookie,
aren't going to make playoffs this year.
But maybe the Red Sox. But we'll go with the Twins.
In the Red Sox, I don't really qualify. I don't know if you can ever qualify the Red Sox as like a sleeper team because of everything that Boston is and the attractive free agent market. Like, are you really a sleeper if you're attracting JD Martinez in the offseason?
Well, so then really there's not a lot of potential playoff teams.
That's what I mean.
Teams,
it's supposed to be a short list in baseball. There's not that many teams that.
Maybe the Tigers?
No, I don't think. No.
No, I know.
Thought that was serious.
No, that was all
there.
a little bit of a joke because I read the rankings on the MLB and they're at the bottom.
Yeah, they're no. Anyway, in the NL, I'm going to say the AL probably is the Indians or the Twins. I think I like Byron Buxton a lot.
But is it fair to say the Indians are even a sleeper team because they've been so up at the top the past 4 years?
Are they going to be a top 3 team this year in the AL?
I think they could. A lot of it, obviously you have the Astros and you have the Yankees.
Yep.
A lot of it depends on you. I guess you'd say maybe the Orioles a little bit and the Red Sox. Depends how JD Martinez does with the Red Sox. And I don't really see another team that towards the top. Maybe the Rangers. But they weren't phenomenal last year either.
Again, I like Buxton for the Minnesota Twins. I don't know if I got him. I didn't get him in fantasy this year. That kind of bugged the crap out of me. I wanted to get him. I ended up waiting a little too long. In the NL side of things, I'm going to take this one. I think the Arizona Diamondbacks have potentially a chance to shock some people. I think there could be potentially a World Series hangover for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I think you could also potentially get a little bit of a hangover for the Washington Nationals because, again, another disappointing season for them. The only thing that concerns me a little bit about the Diamondbacks is their pitching rotation. Greinke, Ray, Corbin, Godley, Walker. I don't necessarily know if that scares me as much as some other NL teams, namely the Cubs and the Dodgers. That rotation is solid, but it's not something that's going to scare me. So Paul Goldschmidt, look, he's one of the best first basemen in the game of baseball right now, and he's a guy that can change a game. But I just wonder about this rotation, if it's strong enough or if it's going to end up holding them back a little bit out in the NL East or West, pardon me.
So, and you're talking about as a sleeper, is that what you're kind of going? Okay, what do you then feel, I guess, being a Wisconsin guy and stuff? What about the Brewers, so to speak?
The Brewers got better this offseason, right? They get Christian Yelich in the building. By the way, Yelich comes from one of the worst left-handed hitting ballparks to one of the best left-handed hitting ballparks in Miller Park. Just a hitter-friendly ballpark in any scenario. Lorenzo Cain, you get him back, and I say back because we ended up trading him to the Royals for Zach Greinke. Now, was that worth it? No, because he didn't win World Series. So, but yes, you had to give up some things for Greinke because you had to make your run. When you make it, that's what small market teams have to do. So they get Lorenzo Cain back. I think that's a big addition. What I don't understand is you have 5 outfielders, starting quality outfielders now in the Brewers organization, and they didn't trade any of them to get a pitcher. That's a big miss right now for them because Jimmy Nelson's going to start the year on IR. So now you have Zach Davies, I believe, is going to be the opening day starter, and then you have Chase Anderson, who pitched really well last year. How are you going to round out your rotation with quality pitchers that teams are actually going to be scared of? The answer is you can't. You needed another pitcher, and unless they find one at the trade deadline, I don't know if they can I don't know if they're going to be a playoff team. Honestly, you need pitching.
So then, do you think it's fair to say, with Ryan Braun being older and stuff, that maybe they should have try and test the market with him, maybe to like a pitching, or do you think kind of with him it's just you're just held on to him now?
The ship has sailed on Ryan Braun, in my opinion. I don't know what you're going to get the value you want to get out of him, which is fair because I mean he's been caught with steroids twice now. One time lied about it, and that's not necessarily a good look. But I mean, if you're Ryan Braun's going to play first base this year, it sounds like, and he's going to platoon first base. So if you're telling me you're going to try to get some quality players in return for a guy that's not even playing half the games because he's only going to play against lefties is what it sounds like, I don't know. I don't think you can really say that. So,
well, so then is there any player that on this roster that you
the
feel
Brewers would trade?
Yeah.
There's some more young guys. So, I mean, you gave up, in order to get Christian Yelich, you give up your best center fielding prospect in Lewis Brinson, one of the probably like a top 10 prospect in the major leagues. You give him up to get Christian Yelich. I don't mind that move. But then if you're going to go all in and get Christian Yelich and spend $60 million on Lorenzo Cain, or $80 million or whatever it was, then I think you need to go out and you need to get that starting pitcher that's going to help put you over the top. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
Why are you going to rely on Zach Davies and Chase Anderson and Jimmy Nelson when he comes back? That's pretty good. That's a pretty good set of 3 starters, but that's a good 2, 3, 4, not a good 1, 2, 3, in my opinion.
So real quick, I know we're running out of time. Where do you see the Brewers finishing in the NL Central?
A second. I don't think the Cardinals have it figured out yet. I don't think Ozuna, I believe, is the Marlin that they got during the Marlins fire sale of getting everyone out of that place. But I don't think they did enough this offseason. And starting to wonder, like, they weren't able to attract big name free agents this offseason. What does that say about the Cardinals organization? I'm not really sure. But I think the Brewers have a chance to finish second. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to recap some of the latest NFL news, including some rule changes that might not have the intended outcomes, as well as a word on the Michael Bennett situation. All that is next on the Border Battle on OSU Student Radio KXCY. Welcome back into Studio 318 here in the Paul Miller Journalism Building at Oklahoma State University. You're listening to The Border Battle with King and CJ. I'm King. He is CJ. You're listening on Suddenlink Channel 112, YouTube Live, Border Battle On Demand, Facebook.com/Border Battle Show, or OSU Student Radio KXCY. Again, if you're wondering what Border Battle means, if you're just tuning in for the first time, I'm from Wisconsin, he's from Minnesota. We fight a lot, and I win a lot. Let's talk about the NFL, Chris.
That's all a thought for you.
Let's talk Let's talk about the NFL. First of all, just a word on the Michael Bennett situation. Obviously, I was wondering what it would be. You know, is it a little bit of a risk that the Eagles are taking by taking him on? Obviously, there was an indictment out for his arrest. To his credit, he went and appeared, and it sounds like it all is being taken care of or has been taken care of. I just want to say, though, this is the risk you are taking if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, because there's always the threat of a distraction with this guy, right? So I think that's something that you had to take into account. They did, and they decided that he was still a guy that was worth, putting on their team, and that's fine. That's their decision.
Right. No, I totally agree, and I know this situation is a little different, but it's almost like the Rams with Ndamukong Suh.
Yeah.
In that sense of, you got to realize what you're getting with what the baggage you're getting with Ndamukong Suh. It's kind of that same. I know it's a different thing,
right.
with what Michael Bennett's with the Eagles and that, but it's that same aspect of Ndamukong Suh has a rough past with what he's done, dirty plays, all that.
I think he gets a little unfairly treated for it, though, because I think if you're not a Packer fan, like, what has he done to your team? The only dirty plays he had were really against the Packers. And it was really just one. There was one where he stepped back on Aaron Rodgers, and could you somehow construe it to being a purposeful step? Yes, you could. You can't defend the Evan Dietrich Smith stomp where he just stomps on his arm. But, like, if I'm an NFL team, like, why do I hate Ndamukong Suh? Just because he's like a loudmouth that is not a team player?
Honestly, for me, not being a massive Packers fan, obviously, I think, to me, it's more of the dirty plays that make me not like him as a player. Like, I get it. Sometimes you just get riled up in the moment and caught in it. But, to watching, a guy step on people's arms or kicking, it's like, in a sense, is that really necessary?
No, it's not. But to his credit, we haven't heard anything about him doing this stuff in Miami. Much.
Right. But, I mean, what has Miami really been able to talk about? Not a whole lot either.
But, I mean, it's not like the Lions were like a premier organization when he was there.
No, but you have Stafford, you had Kelvin Johnson. Who are the Dolphins at Tannehill?
Well, so they're an interesting team, but they're not necessarily like a quality team.
No, but again, it's like you said, they're interesting. That's where I'd want to pay more attention. You could say the same when Ndamukong Suh and Nick Fairley were on. Both of those two were bad.
Now it's interesting because he goes back to an intriguing team. He goes back to a situation where it's intriguing, and a team probably the best shot he's going to have to win a Super Bowl is out in L.A., as far as his career has gone so far. And I think that will be interesting to talk about. So we just wanted to get a word about that real quick. But I want to talk about these rule changes. We'll talk about the one that was tabled a little bit later if we have time for it. The ones I want to talk about are the catch rule and the clean hit rule. That's not the best way to phrase it. We'll get to that one second. I want to talk about the catch rule first. The catch rule has always been since this whole it started with Calvin Johnson. Now, speaking of Calvin Johnson, it started with him and that catch against the Bears that should have won the game, right? Since then, no catch has been such a subjective rule. I don't know if that's going to change much now. The way that it's now worded is they have to make a football move. You know what I think happens now? I think we're going to see a myriad of fumbles. We're going to see a bunch of fumbles. Now everything that people were complaining about being a non-catch, those are going to be fumbles now. So be careful what you wish for, because now what used to be an incomplete pass might turn the ball over for your team. It's a football move now, so it's the same thing as a fumble. So if you make a football move and drop it, it's a fumble, right? Which I said the entire time, how can you have one scenario where it's a football move or a fumble, for a fumble, right? Or it's not a football move, it's going to the ground for a catch. That was the difference that I saw that I was so concerned with the catch rule was it's a double standard. If it happens in the middle of the field, it's make a move, make a football move. If it happens in the end zone or on the sideline, it is survive the ground. Why? Because there's no one to recover the fumble.
Right.
Make sense?
No, yeah, that's what honestly, that's what I was going to kind of point out.
I don't think
why wouldn't you make it like? And I don't know if there is a way to really fix this problem. Anyways, you're always going to have flack from one side or the other. It doesn't matter. There's no way to really the only way you can do is, if the ball moves, it's still a catch type of thing. As long as it doesn't hit the ground, or any part of the football hit the ground, then it's not. If it hits the ground, it's not a catch. If it rolls in your arms and doesn't hit the ground, it's a catch. Like I feel like
that's what it's been for the past 5 years. I think if you have here's the thing. Here's where it will change. If you're going out of bounds and you have taken 3 steps, which is 3 steps, made a football move, spun, whatever, and you go to the ground and it juggles and it hits the ground, it should be a catch.
Right.
It should be a catch. You should be able to juggle it. If you've already established possession, made a football move, you should be able to juggle it and, put it on the ground, whatever. I think that should be allowed. I just don't think this is going to change that much. This is, honestly.
Yeah, it's kind of like you said.
It's still subjective as all heck.
Right. Yeah, there's going to be more people mad again next year, and then they'll be sitting here, okay, what else can we do to change it? There's really, like I said before, I don't think there is a lot that could really cement this set in stone where we don't have to deal with this conflict anymore.
When you talked about people or, experts or people in the media talking about changing this rule, what is the one thing they wanted to do? They wanted to make it simpler. Yeah. I don't know how much simpler you made it. I don't think you made it more, I don't think you necessarily made it worse. I don't think you turned it into a worse thing, but I don't know if you made it that much better. I guess we're going to have to see over the course of a season.
I think it'll make it better in the sense, yes, this may cause more fumbles, like you said, with the football move. I think that'll help. But, yeah, it's still one of those things. Then you're going to hear this flack about, fumbles, turnovers are going to go up, all this and that. Then players will be like, how's that fair? There's going to be – I think there'll be a lot of whining again this year.
Shocker.
Which I mean,
every year,
when
right?
isn't there? But, yeah.
All right, well, let's move on to the hit rule, I guess is what it's being kind of called by normal people. We have a tweet here from the let's see here, the NFL PR guy. He says, playing rule Article 8, he tweeted this out yesterday. It is a foul if a player lowers his head to initiate and make contact with his helmet against an opponent. The player may be disqualified. This applies to any player anywhere on the field. The player may be disqualified. Again, close quote. So, Brian McCarthy says this. This is interesting, right? Not targeting, not launching, not crown of the helmet. It's just lowering your head and making contact and initiating the contact. That is an important word that I think people aren't talking about. Initiating. You have to be the one to initiate the contact. But this is the interesting line of that. It applies to any player anywhere on the football field. That is where it applies to. That applies to running backs. That applies to defensive tackles. That applies to offensive tackles, guards, centers, quarterbacks. Cam Newton cannot see a safety in the hole now and lower his head. And I think it is a slippery slope. I really do. I think this is a slippery slope to too many calls. I don't know what your thoughts are on it.
I was just going to say, for a defensive player, this makes your job that much harder because when you tackle, whether you're trying to get them with your shoulder or not, if your head hits them, also know that's a penalty. What is a defensive player supposed to do? Go for the shoelaces now? And but
be
then
careful.
You can't hit with your head either.
Be careful. If you dive,
then
what
it's
happens?
A chop block.
What happens? Your head goes down. I'm just saying this is very. And they haven't written the exact rule yet. This is just a tweet. But they better write some specific guidelines for this rule because if it's just lowering your head, I do that when I walk.
Right.
I go like that when I walk sometimes.
Well, anyway, if you're looking at your phone and all of a sudden you bump into someone with your head, flag,
toss them out.
Yeah, 15-yard penalty, and then
potentially. Not everything is going to be. That's a good point that you make. Not necessarily every time it's going to be a toss out, but potentially could be an ejection. Yeah. It's just, is this not a slippery slope? Because if I'm a guard now, if I'm a left guard and I'm pulling out to the right and I'm peeling around and I'm trying to make the lead block, what do you always see tackles do? They kind of dive out and try to clip them a little bit, obviously in a legal way, try to cut block them. Is that not a penalty now by that verbiage? Is that not a penalty because he's lowering his head? Right.
Well, it's even a defensive lineman, even offensive, when they're bull rushing stuff like that. It's that same thing. If you're a good outside, if you're Von Miller now, J.J. Watt, if your thing is bull rushing, if that's your thing where you kind of do leave the helmet, Now you got to think, it's even as a guard, you have to think, okay, how am I holding them so my helmet doesn't all of a sudden hit into their, because that's the thing too. Are they going to do it if you get hit? Well, I know they have to initiate the contact, but is it one of those things that if someone hits them and then that causes them to initiate contact with someone with their head, does that also result as a thing?
I don't know.
That's like you said, it's that slippery slope of, okay, now, if someone gets bumped in, how's that fair to all of a sudden flag them when you got bumped?
What did we just talk about with the catch rule? It is subjective. This is going to be subjective. This is going to be subjective as all get out. So I want to talk about this. We have a couple minutes here. Let's talk about this thing that they ended up tabling. So it doesn't look like it'll get passed this year. Might. Doesn't look like it's going to get passed. Called the Josh McDaniels rule is what some people are calling it. It is saying essentially that you can agree to terms while still in the playoffs to kind of limit this whole what happened with Josh McDaniels. It's always a situation that causes rule change. You could argue the Jesse James play caused the catch rule. That was the tipping point. You could argue the Ryan Shazier hit, maybe caused this new hit rule. As bad as that sounds, I mean, it's unfortunate for Ryan Shazier, and obviously all the best to him, but that might have caused this rule change. And I wonder if Josh McDaniels is the reason for this rule change as well, because now it would be you can actually sign your terms, and it's just like it's official, but it's not. Like you can still coach your team.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, if it is to pass, I think it's a good thing. I know people could say, oh, it could be an outside distraction because you're trying to plan for the playoffs, but it's like at the same time, these teams that aren't in the playoffs, they are looking towards the next year, like the Colts were, and then it in a sense, it actually put McDaniels in a tough spot, I read, because the Patriots were kind of holding off. They're like, nope, we're just focusing one game at a time. They didn't let McDaniels even know what their plan was with him. And then all of a sudden, Super Bowl's over. Oh, hey, we're going to do this, this, and this with you. This is where we want you to be. So then it kind of sucks for him because now he's like, well, I just made a commitment here, but I love what you're promising me here. And I'm on a Super Bowl winning, can win all the time right now. I'm going to go back. So in a sense, it's kind of a lot of blame on the Patriots as well.
I thought that was an interesting take, that interesting angle to view that ESPN article with. I said that last night. I said, this is an interesting way to talk about it, is not just blaming McDaniels for this, because you can blame the Patriots too. The Patriots pushed off Josh McDaniels, like you said, pushed it back and pushed it back and pushed it back, and then said, oh yeah, by the way, we want you. Here's your expanded role. Here's more money. Whatever it was, I don't know what it was. Didn't really come out. But if it was more money, expanded role, more duties, maybe if he's promised to be the head coach, but I don't think that's the case. Now you got to do that earlier. And that's how it should be. You shouldn't be able to reward teams like the Patriots dragging their feet on their assistant coaches.
Yeah, and real quick, I know we're running out of time. I think this now changed my mindset on him. When we first heard about it, I was mad at McDaniels, and now I'm
still
like,
mad at McDaniels.
I mean, I am a little bit, but now I feel bad.
Yeah, well, he's making a lot of money. I don't think you got to feel bad for Josh McDaniels. Anyways, thanks for joining us. Have a great Wednesday. We appreciate you listening. Thanks again to Coach Boynton. We really appreciate him of men's basketball team taking the time to join the show today. Thought that was a great interview, and obviously OSU very lucky to have him captaining the ship headed forward. Join us again on Friday. We'll break down the Final Four and, of course, our Ticker Topics segment. All of that on Friday. For CJ, the great crew we have around here, I'm Jordan King. Thanks for listening to the Border Battle on OSU Student Radio KXCY.
Hi, I'm Gina Noble, and I'm the mayor of Stillwater, Oklahoma. Stillwater, Oklahoma is anything but still. We are a vibrant community, and we are conveniently located near Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and Wichita, Kansas. We're the home of the Oklahoma State Cowboys, and we serve as the cultural, economic, and athletic hub for North Central Oklahoma. In fact, several Quality of Life magazines have recognized Stillwater as one of the nation's 100 top places to live and one of the best places to golf. Established in the land run in 1889, Stillwater is a safe, vibrant community. It boasts a great educational system from K through 12, all the way up to our world-class university, Oklahoma State University. We have an exceptional downtown with a strong entrepreneurial spirit, numerous city parks and trails, and our medical resources are second to none. Stillwater is a wonderful place to begin your career, to start a business, to raise a family, or to retire. We invite you to visit Stillwater because we are anything but still.
Thank Think you're not involved in your community? Think again. Spending your money with local businesses is more than an economic choice. It's a way you can have a say in the look and feel of your hometown. This spring, I invite you to shop in downtown Stillwater. Downtown Stillwater is home to locally owned shops, boutiques, eateries, and dependable professionals that you can trust. Find the perfect gift for your graduate, have a delicious meal with mom, or just stop in to enjoy great spring savings. By creating a demand for local goods and services, you can ensure a place for the local businesses that help give our community character and keep it unique. On behalf of Downtown Stillwater, thank you for shopping local.